French President Emmanuel Macron said this Wednesday a standoff with the United States over Greenland was a strategic wake-up call for all of Europe. Macron's words came as he hosted talks with the leaders of Denmark and the Danish autonomous territory of Greenland. European powers have sought to join forces after US President Donald Trump roiled the transatlantic alliance, otherwise known as NATO, by threatening to seize strategically located and, of course, mineral-rich Greenland. Let's hear from President Macron as well as Denmark's Prime Minister.
Welcoming you both here today is an opportunity for France to reiterate its solidarity with Denmark, its commitment to your sovereignty and territorial integrity, and to reaffirm to Greenland and the Greenlandic people our full support. In view of Russia's stance in the far north, China's economic presence, and the strategic consequences of this rapprochement, we agree on the need to strengthen our defense posture in the Arctic. Recent events confirm that the situation in Greenland is a strategic wake-up call for the whole of Europe.
In a situation where the world order as we have known it is under pressure, it's changing rapidly, maybe it's gone, then we need a stronger Europe than ever. A Europe that is willing and able to stand up for our values and for our principles. It's up to us and only up to us Europeans to create a confident and prosperous Europe of tomorrow. We have to be able to defend ourselves.
Let's get the analysis and bring in Federico Santopinto, who's Senior Research Fellow at IRIS, where he's head of the Europe, EU and NATO program. Federico, thank you very much for being with us. Do you agree that this has been a strategic wake-up call for all of Europe?
Yes, certainly it has been a strategic wake-up call. The problem is that Europe has had already several strategic wake-up calls in the past. I would say even the first one was during the Balkan Wars in the 90s, and each time the European Union and the European member states are saying that they need to wake up, they need to become more autonomous from the United States, and then when a new crisis comes, they discover that they are still very weak and dependent on the United States. I remind you also that after the 90s, during the Balkan Wars, the European Union decided to launch a common defense policy in order to be more autonomous from the United States, because the United States didn't want at that time intervene in the Balkans, in the ex-Yugoslavia, because it was considering that European countries should be able to do that alone. So the European defense policy has been launched at the end of the 90s, early 2000 for this, and 25 years later, we are still without the capacity to act together without the United States. We still are dependent on the United States.
2019, it was Emmanuel Macron himself who called NATO. The expression used was brain dead. He was talking about a kind of endemic lack of strategic coordination among the members. Has that really changed? I think from what you were saying, it hasn't changed at all.
Well, NATO credibility is really undermined now because, as you know, the heart of NATO system is Article 5 of the Atlantic Charter, and this Article 5 says that if a country is under attack and its sovereignty is under attack, the other member of NATO should come to help. The problem is that the United States has threatened Denmark and Greenland, and so in this sense, it's very difficult to consider that the Article 5 is still credible. I'm not saying that NATO is completely dead from a credibility point of view, but it has been strongly undermined by the United States and by the behavior of Donald Trump, that's for sure.
Okay, so that's the situation regarding NATO. In terms of the European Union, in terms of the EU, has Trump in some ways succeeded in actually getting Europe to be a bit more united, given the fact that most European states, of course, are backing Denmark's position on Greenland?
Yes, certainly. We can see that European Union are really realizing now that they should become more autonomous from a strategic point of view. We've seen in Davos that they were more strong, and they have understood that a red line, Donald Trump wanted to cross another red line, and then this time they show more strength. Nevertheless, we will have to see if European Union will be able to remain united in the long term. This is still a question, because there are some countries inside the European Union and among the Europeans that may see Donald Trump as a potential partner. I'm thinking to Italy of Meloni, but also to Orban in Hungary, but also Fico in Slovakia, and also the Czech Republic. So we've seen a more strong Europe for once in Davos in order to defend the integrity of Greenland and Denmark. But we have to see in the long term if this unity can stand in the long term.
Indeed, those countries you mentioned who perhaps see themselves or maybe look up to Trump, perhaps that might change with a tariff or two. What do you think?
Well, I think that in case Trump wanted to raise again tariff, he would have a strong pressure not only from European countries but also from the business community. We've seen that the business community already in Davos and probably also in the United States were opposed to the idea of imposing sanctions to those countries that wanted to defend Greenland and Denmark. And I think this has been very important. Nevertheless, we have some doubt about the fact that Trump behave is rational. So in that case, it's very difficult to understand what he could do. In any case, in case of raising taxes, there is the possibility that the European Union can use what we call the bazooka, which is a anti-coercion system in the trade policy of the European Union. But I'm not sure all European countries would accept to apply this countermeasure against the United States, and even Germany may be reluctant on this in this case.
Indeed, no matter how you look at the fact that the two big blocks are interdependent, United States, European Union, in terms of how debt is shared, in terms of what that anti-coercion mechanism might do. If it were launched, that would, of course, would be a point of no return, wouldn't it? Strategically, economically, in all manner of things, it would completely break the relationship. Surely that can't be good for anybody.
No, it would be a tragedy, but I think that the tragedy already started. Now we have seen Trump is making a step behind, but nevertheless, the strong links there are between European countries and economies and the United States would be several really compromised. And I think that the only who could be happy about this situation are Xi Jinping in China and Vladimir Putin in Russia.
Federico, thank you very much for that analysis. Greatly appreciated. Federico Santopinto is a senior research fellow, at IRIS, where he's head of the Europe, EU and NATO programme. Thank you, Federico, for joining us here in France 24. Much appreciated.